Good evening, I'm Faye Barker. The father of a little boy who was electrocuted in a pub garden says his death was completely avoidable. Harvey Tyrrell was just 7 years old when in 2018 he touched a railing which turned out to be fatal. Earlier this month, the landlord of the pub in Romford and an electrician were both jailed. Today, Harvey's parents, in their first interview, told of their grief and their campaign to improve safety. They spoke to our reporter, Sam Holder.
It's the bare necessity, the simple bare necessity.
His happiness was infectious. He was just such a happy, cheeky little boy. It was totally avoidable what happened to Harvey. To then find out how it could have been something like a £12 earthen bar that would have saved Harvey's life, it really is mind-blowing.
Harvey Tyrrell died after touching a railing. The 7-year-old was electrocuted in a pub garden with so many safety issues. It was described as a ticking time bomb.
He was laying on the ground and I just remember I couldn't go near him. I wanted to touch him, but I was scared because I didn't know what had happened.
We never had that chance to say goodbye or tell him that we loved him one last time or kissed him. You know, we feel cheated.
What would you say to him?
Just, I love you, son, and I'm so proud to be your dad.
The family had visited the King Harold in Romford many times, but behind the pristine facade were dozens of defects. An electrical expert said it was the most dangerous thing he'd seen in 40 years.
It's hard to comprehend that someone would value profits over people's lives. It was always going to happen, and it was just real bad luck that it was our little boy.
This month, the landlord Dave Bierman, who knew the risks but never fixed them, was sentenced to 9 years for manslaughter. His brother-in-law, Colin Naylor, who installed some of the electrics, was sentenced to 1 year for health and safety breaches. Inspectors for Havering Borough first raised concerns about the pub almost a decade before Harvey's death, but nothing was ever done.
Do you feel let down by Havering Council?
Yeah, big time.
Because actually, if they'd followed up on the checks,
there were 3 warnings documented, so there must have been an open file on the pub and on Bierman.
There are memories of Harvey on almost every inch and every object at their home. The family say they want immediate changes to inspections and enforcement, especially with the number of pop-up outdoor pubs and restaurants during the pandemic.
Sam Holder there. Well, Havering Council says it sends heartfelt sympathies to the family. And after Harvey died, it worked with the police and closed down the pub until the electrics were fixed. A 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death in Newham. Police and medics were called to Barking Road just before 4 o'clock this afternoon. The boy was found with stab wounds and died at the scene. A murder investigation has been launched. No one has been arrested. Hundreds of Arsenal fans protested outside the Emirates Stadium this evening ahead of their 1-0 defeat to Everton. They were demanding the club's owner leaves following the European Super League row. Now to a row that may move from the athletics track to the courts. The owners of the London Stadium in Stratford say the pandemic has made it too expensive to convert it for this summer's anniversary games. Instead, they suggest the event should move to Birmingham. But UK Athletics say their contract should be upheld. Chloe Keedy reports.
The 2012 Olympic Games was meant to be the start of a long legacy of athletics for this stadium. Each year, around 20,000 people come to watch the anniversary games. But the London Legacy Development Corporation has said it can't afford to host them here this year, and organisers will have to go elsewhere. James Ellington competed in the 2012 Olympics and has been back for many anniversary games since. He's currently training for Tokyo and says for any athlete, the event is a crucial part of the preparation.
Yeah, so the last competition we had before the Rio Olympics, our send-off, was the anniversary games. So, I mean, we went there, we ran a really quick relay. You get a lot of a lot of good supporters that turn up at the anniversary games, and they kind of give us our final send-off before we go to kind of battle, if it were.
In previous years, the stadium, which is now home to West Ham Football Club, has been transformed from a pitch into an athletics track. This stadium would usually play host to a whole summer of non-football events, but this year, because of COVID, most of them just aren't happening. Now, the LLDC says it simply can't justify the £3 million cost of converting the stadium for one evening of athletics. But UK Athletics is now planning legal action and says moving the games out of London would be an unacceptable breach of a long-standing agreement that forms an important part of the 2012 Olympic legacy plans. We expect the contract to be honoured and the event to take place at the Olympic Stadium. Peckham-born sprinter Imani Lara Lancico is hoping to compete at her first Olympics this summer and puts at least part of her success so far down to her experience at London's stadium.
I know what it's like to race on that track, and I really came of age at the London Diamond League. And I think that, I wouldn't say it was obviously because of my performance, but it was just the magic of kind of being on a track that the athletic greats had performed on.
The LLDC says the event can be moved without disrupting Team GB's Olympic preparations, but UK Athletics argues it not only undermines the legacy of the sport, but risks jeopardising its future. Chloe Keedy, ITV News, Stratford.
A goods train caught fire near Dunton Green train station in Sevenoaks this morning. It happened at around 5 a.m. No one was injured and the cause of the fire isn't yet known. And one of the stars of Peaky Blinders says women who work behind the scenes should never have to choose between having a family and working in TV and film. Actor Charlotte Riley has co-founded an on-site nursery at film studios in Hertfordshire and says more can be done. Carolyn Sim reports.
Anyway, I thought it would make you smile.
When Peaky Blinders star Charlotte Riley became a mum, childcare wasn't a problem. If you're on screen, nannies are allowed on set. But the actress, who's married to Tom Hardy, recognised that for hundreds of staff behind the scenes, it's not the same. Long and unpredictable hours often force highly skilled women to quit their careers altogether. So Charlotte opened a nursery right next to Warner Brothers Studios in Leavesden last year.
We want to keep everybody working. You know, nobody should have to choose between having a family and work. And people train really, really hard and work really hard to make their place in the industry and keep their place in the industry. And I just don't think people should be having to make that choice once they become a parent.
Should we play with this? The nursery has allowed prop specialist Rachel Ziegelmeier to keep doing the job she loves.
I want to be somebody in the industry and I'm a mum. I'm not trying to hide either one. And I think for me, just to feel seen finally is just, it's quite liberating. It makes me want to do my job better.
Now, a new campaign called Keeping Families in Film is being launched by Charlotte. It asks production companies to include childcare in their budgets.
It is completely feasible to have childcare on site and with a production. The biggest challenges really are changing schedules and changing hours. And that's where the real need for flexibility is. And that's why it really works with Wonderworks here, because there's flexibility of hours at the beginning and end of each day, which you don't have in traditional nurseries.
With several huge new film studios being built in and around London, it's a booming industry. But the campaign says only suitable childcare will ensure it's a truly equal one. Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Let's check the weather now with Chris.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV London weekend weather.
Hello there. Very good evening to you. There's been a lot of sunshine across the capital today, and that dry theme with some further sunny spells is going to continue into the weekend. The warmest day looks to be Saturday, but there'll be a touch more cloud in the forecast for Sunday, which will mean it will feel a little bit cooler too. Back to the here and now, though, with clear skies for many of us overnight tonight and the light winds, it does mean our temperatures once again will fall away. Mist and fog patches across eastern parts of the home counties, and again, temperatures could be close to freezing. by dawn tomorrow morning in the countryside. But it does mean a chilly start for all on Saturday morning, particularly for our early risers. But then through the day tomorrow, sunny spells yet again, a touch more high level cloud in the forecast tomorrow. So just turning that sunshine hazy, but still coolest out towards the east and highs 15 to 17 Celsius across the west. High pressure remains in control of our weather as we go through Saturday night and into Sunday. That keeps it fairly quiet. We will start to see this easterly flow developing through the day on Sunday, just pulling in a touch more cloud, but still some sunny spells and dry weather through the weekend, and just a chance of a shower for Tuesday next week. Good night.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV London Weekend Weather.
We're back tomorrow evening at 6:45. Until then, do enjoy the start of your weekend. Bye-bye.